Good morning, everyone. We will discuss the Module 5 entitled Justice and Fairness, Promoting the Common Goods. When we talk about justice, it means giving each person what he or she deserves, or in more traditional terms, giving each person his or her due. When something is just, it is by definition fair. Focuses mostly on the standards and rules of law in our current justice systems. On the other hand, fairness is the freedom from prejudice and quality of treating people equally. It is usually dictated by our moral systems. For example, Robin Hood steals money from the rich to give the poor. Is it just? Is it fair? It is acceptable based on the point of view of the poor but unjust for the rich. And now, let's talk about the nature and theory of justice and fairness. The first is the distributive justice, refers to the extent to which societies institutions ensure that benefits and burdens are distributed among society's members in ways that are fair and just. Like for example, workers receiving equal pay for equal work, people having access to high quality education and healthcare, and also much more. While most would agree that efforts at distributive justice can help a lot of people, it is a subject it that is still at the heart of many debates. John Rawls is a popular 20th century philosopher. He was born in Baltimore in the year 1921. His father prominent lawyer, while his mother is a chapter president of the League of Women Voters. Rawls studied at Princeton University. In 1971, he published a theory of justice aims to 1. Provide a moral theory alternative to utilitarianism. Number 2. Addresses the problem of distributive justice. 3. Develop standards or principles of social justice that could apply to real societies.
Types of distributive justice: egalitarian, capitalist, and socialist. Egalitarian holds that equal share of benefits and burdens should be given to every member of the society. There are no relevant differences such as status, ability, and need that can justify any unfair distribution of goods. It means dapat lahat tayo pantay-pantay ang binibigay sa bawat miyembro ng lipunan nito at walang pagkakaiba gaya ng katayuan at kakayahan upang hindi patas ang pamamahagi ng mga benepisyo. Next, ensure that allocation of income and wealth are done equally because no one deserves to be poor, to be in lower social status, and to have natural inabilities. Egalitarians were the ruling elite in the landowner aristocrats. Ensured that allocation of income and wealth are done equally because no one deserved to be poor, to be in lower social status, and to have natural inabilities. Ang sinasabi dito, ang egalitarian ay ang nagaharing aristocrats ng may-ari ng lupain na ng paglalaan ng kita at kayamanan ay ginagawa ng pantay-pantay dahil walang sino man ang karapat-dapat na maging mahirap na nasa mababang katayuan sa lipunan ang magkaroon ng mga likas na kawalan ng kakayahanan. And egalitarians were the ruling elite in the landowner aristocrats. Each person has an equal rights to the most extensive liberties compatible with similar liberties for all. This means those people should have as much freedom as possible provided that their freedom does trample on the freedom of others in or affected by the system. Rawls calls this egalitarian distributive justice as equal liberty principles and difference principles. Equal liberty principles guarantees the equal basic liberties and rights such as freedom of expression, assembly, property, and etc. needed to secure the fundamental interests of free and equal citizens. Such liberties can help one pursue a wide range of conception of the good. And these principles hold that responsibilities or benefits and burdens are to be distributed according to one's abilities and needs. While all people can still pursue their interests, they have to fairly compete with each other for the powers in possession of any office they aspire for. It means the deference principle states that the long run expectation of the less advantageous social group should be maximized. The application of this principle is subject to certain con- constraints in Rawls' theory, notably that the requirement of the most extensive equal liberties for all has priority over it. And deference principle means that a government may undertake financial project that requires some persons to give up some power, income, status, and etc. so that others' life can be better off. Besides, there should be no discrimination in education and employment whereby everybody has access to the privileged positions.
Capitalist holds that equality only applies to political and civil rights, but not to economic benefits. People can be treated unequally depending on their contribution to the society, organization, etc., because that is determined by their privately owned assets and business. Ang mga capitalist ay naniniwala na ang equality ay nararapat lamang sa mga political at sibil, at hindi para sa economic benefits, dahil naniniwala ang capitalist na ang mga economic benefits ay isang private assets at negosyo. Capitalism is seen as a very essential element in efficiently earning profits and incentives, cutting costs and solving problems, and encouraging creative and innovative economic development. So ang capitalism ay essential dahil ito ay nakafocus sa pagkakaroon ng kita at ito din ang lumulutas ng problema. Ito din ang nagbabawas ng gastusin at magbibigay ng incentives kaya ito essential. For example, sa pamilihan, ang capitalism ay nagbibigay ng incentives sa mga tao. Ngayon, ang mga tao ay magiging productive at magbibigay ng maayos na serbisyo para sa mga consumer. A capitalist economy that relies on free markets and private ownership can be very detrimental to the poor or less privileged member of the society. The capitalists and oligarchs can dictate the prices, incomes, wealth, and distribution of goods that are favorable to their interests. Capitalism can be very oppressive and inhuman. Ang kapitalism daw ay mapang-api at hindi makatao, dahil ang capitalism ay kaya magdikta ng presyo ayon sa kanilang gusto. For example, ang capitalism ay pwedeng magbigay ng mataas na presyo kung ang hanap ng isang consumer ay hindi mahanap sa iba or mahirap hanapin. Kaya sinasabi ang capitalism ay hindi makatao.
Number 3. Socialist. This asserts that people can be treated unequally like capitalism, but such is to be based on the people's needs and abilities. Rawls calls this as property-owning democracy, in which a broad distribution of which across society is guaranteed by strong policies of wealth distribution. The Philippine taxation is a good example of the application of Rawls' justice and fairness with its two principles. Taxation is very essential to every country revenue and expenses. It is a financial system that collects money from people's income and produces goods or services, also to earn income in order to use them for the public and the less privileged members. This is getting from those who have more in order to give something to those who have less. This may also provide incentives for good behavior. National Internal Revenue Code provide laws governing Philippines taxation, which had substantial revision in the Tax Reform Act of 1997 on January 1, 1998. Taxation is being managed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue under the Department of Finance. In taxation, the equal liberty principle ensures that all pay their own income tax from their salary, passive, business, and professional incomes. The collected taxes are expended for public facilities to be used equally. Some of these projects are airports, seaports, railways, roads, bridges, water utilities, flood control, sewerage, electrification, energy sources, public markets, terminals, and others. With the difference principle, the income tax exposed fairly on every Filipino is according to the rates below. Tax rate, the 0 pesos to 10,000 pesos, the percentage of this is 5%. 10,000 pesos to 30,000 pesos, equivalent to 10%. 30,000 pesos to 70,000 pesos is equivalent to 15%. 70,000 to 140,000 pesos is equivalent to 20%. 140,000 pesos to 250,000 is equivalent to 25%. Then 250,000 pesos to 500,000 pesos is equivalent to 30%. And 500,000 pesos and above is equivalent to 32%. With difference principle, the collected taxes are being spent differently or unequally to the less privileged citizens. Some of these expenses are students, teachers, assistants, scholarship, medical mission, immunization, health insurance subsidy, free medicines, sustainable livelihood, feeding for peace, DSW relief operations, welfare services, assistance to farmers, financial and social services, NHA housing, free textbooks, assistance programs, and relief operations.